Dear listeners, imagine this. The night is so silent, only the sound of wind brushing against dry leaves fills the air. The moon hangs torn in the sky, its light pale like a wound that refuses to heal. Deep in the darkness of the Keelam Valley forest, a pair of glowing yellow eyes watch, staring from behind thick foliage, unblinking, unmoving. Those eyes are locked on a young boy standing at the edge of the village path, his body trembling not from cold, but from a fear so deep it rattles the bones. And then footsteps, slow, heavy, emerge from within the forest, a sound not meant to exist in this world. Who is watching him? And why is the boy walking toward it? But before we get into the story, don't forget to support this channel with a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support means so much and keeps us excited to bring you more thrilling stories. And of course, a huge thank you to all of you who have already liked, shared, commented, and subscribed. You are a vital part of this storytelling journey. Oh, and don't forget to check in through the comments. Let us know where you're listening from so we can see how far these stories are spreading. Now let's continue the story. In a remote village called Keelam Valley, hidden behind hills and ancient, untouched forests, lived a young boy named Arel. He was 11 years old. People didn't like him, not because he was mean or mischievous, but because he dreamed too much. Way too much. Enough that people whispered behind his back, calling him strange, even mad. Every night, Arel would sit by the window in his small wooden house, staring into the sky, listening to the voices of the night. He believed the forest held secrets too deep for grown-ups to see. His mother, Maya, a widow and a weaver who worked from dawn till dusk, often scolded him for daydreaming too much. Arel, stop imagining things. Life is real, not a dream, she said one evening as she warmed her hands by the hearth. But Arel stayed silent. His eyes kept drifting back to the forest. Something about that night felt different. The air was colder. The wind whispered odd things. And then, he saw it. Pair of eyes. Yellow. Not like any animal's eyes. These eyes seemed alive. Arel didn't scream. He didn't run. Instead, he felt drawn to them. That night, while his mother slept from exhaustion, Arel slipped out of the house. He walked down the path leading to the forest edge. His bare feet pressed against the freezing soil. Yet he didn't stop. His steps were small but determined. The deeper he walked, the quieter the world became. The air felt heavier. Then, through the shadows, he saw it. Black wolf. As large as a calf. Its fur thick but torn, patches missing as if burned. Old scars traced its back and legs. But it was the eyes. Glowing yellow, steady and haunting. Arel took a step back. But before he could flee, a deep voice echoed, not from the wolf's mouth but inside his mind. My name is Cain. I am the wolf who never sleeps. Arel's heart pounded wildly. He was terrified, and yet curious. Why can't you sleep? Cain lowered his head. I was cursed. I was once the guardian between dreams and reality. But humans destroyed everything. They stole dreams to fuel power. I tried to stop them. So they cursed me. They trapped me in this form. They took away my rest, my peace, my death. Now I remain awake forever, remembering everything, forgetting nothing. Arel said nothing. His chest tightened. It was as if he'd just heard the saddest story in the world. From that night on, Arel and Cain became secret companions. Every night, Arel sneaked out. They would sit beneath the old fig tree, speaking without words. Cain taught Arel about dreams. Forgotten dreams, sacred dreams, the kind that grew from hope and love. He spoke of how dangerous it was when humans stole dreams from others. Humans used to plant dreams to grow hope, Cain said. Now they burn them to build power. Arel listened intently. Every story opened a new part of his heart. But he couldn't share any of this with others. His mother grew suspicious. "Why are your eyes always red and your clothes dirty, Arel?" she asked one morning. "I was just walking," he replied softly. But Maya knew he was hiding something. And her mother's instinct began to stir with dread. Then the village began to change. Livestock went missing. Strange howls echoed through the woods. Fear spread like wildfire. One day Wyra, the village chief, an old man hardened by years of suspicion, stood before the people and declared, "There is a creature in the woods. The legend of the sleepless wolf is real. He is waiting for a pure soul to break his curse. If we don't act now, he'll take our children." Panic surged. The villagers murmured in fear. Maya, haunted by a story from her own past, of her uncle who once cursed a being from the forest, feared the legend was true, that her son, Arel, was now the key to that curse. So behind Arel's back, she went to Wyra. That very night they planned it. The village men would enter the forest with torches and spears, to kill the wolf who never sleeps. The night fell thick like smoke, choking the breath of the village. Clouds swept across the moon, turning the world below into a smear of shifting shadows. From the darkness, faint lights began to glow, torches, flickering, marching, held by hands trembling not just from cold, but from dread. Wyra led the way, his eyes sharp, lips pressed into a grim line. Beside him walked men of the village, Reno, Genta, Dharma, and nearly a dozen others. They were farmers, fishermen, old woodcutters, men who had never hunted anything more dangerous than wild boars. But tonight they were hunters of legend, and their prey was something that had haunted whispers for generations. Behind closed doors, the women watched in silence. Some prayed, others cried softly, and one woman could barely breathe. Maya stood by her window, gripping the curtain as tightly as she held her fear. Her heart ached in a rhythm that matched the footsteps outside. She had not told Arel about the plan. Not yet. She couldn't. How could she tell her son that the creature he trusted would be slaughtered by the very people he grew up around? But deep down, a small part of her still believed that maybe, just maybe, the stories were wrong. That Cain was no monster. Still she stayed quiet. And Arel, he wasn't in his bed. Far from the village, beneath the twisted branches of a dead tree, Cain lay curled in the shadows. His body trembled, not from cold, but from the pull of something he hadn't felt in decades. A dream. A single thread of a dream floated around him like a ribbon of golden smoke. It was Arel's. Pure. Honest. Untouched by greed or fear. The dream whispered of skies that never darkened, of forests that sang lullabies, of a world where no one had to be alone. Cain growled softly. His chest rose and fell with a strange, broken rhythm. Hurt. The dream hurt. 'Cause he could not touch it. Could not enter it. He was cursed to watch. But never sleep. Then came the smell of fire. He stood up. The torches were near. And he knew. Tonight was no ordinary night. Arel stumbled through the underbrush, heart pounding, breath short. He had seen the torches from the hill, heard the rumors. He knew what was about to happen. They think he's a monster. They don't know him. Branches tore at his skin, roots clawed at his ankles, but he kept running. Faster. Deeper. Toward the old fig tree, where Cain always waited. When he reached the clearing, Cain was already there. Standing tall. eyes burning brighter than ever. "They're coming," Cain said, his voice echoing inside Arel's skull. "I know," Arel gasped, tears in his voice. "You have to run." Cain didn't move. "I'm tired of running, Arel. You said you wanted peace." "I do. But peace does not come from fear. It comes from truth." Cain turned toward the sound of rustling leaves. The glow of fire was growing closer. "I must show them who I am. Not with claws. Not with teeth. But with memory." Arel grabbed his fur, shaking. "They won't listen. They're scared. Please, just hide." Cain looked down, his eyes softening. "If I run tonight, I will always be the monster in their dreams. But if I stay, maybe one of them will remember that I was once a guardian." The first torch entered the clearing. Wyra stepped forward, spear in hand. The other men formed a half-circle behind him, each gripping weapons they barely knew how to use. And then they saw him. Towering, silent, radiating something ancient and unknowable. Wyra raised his spear. "Get away from the boy," he shouted. "Arel, come here." Arel didn't move. He stood between Cain and the villagers, arms spread wide. "No. He's not dangerous. He's bewitched you," Wyra barked. "Step aside, Arel. He saved me. He talks to me. He's not a monster." But the fear in their hearts was stronger than the truth in Arel's voice. Reno stepped forward, torch held high. "You can't fool us with tricks, beast." He hurled the torch. It struck Cain's side. Flames licked his fur. Cain didn't cry out. He stood still, silent, unmoving. The fire began to spread across his side. His eyes closed. Arel screamed, rushing to pat out the flames, but Cain held him back gently. "I'm not afraid anymore," Cain whispered. "Let them see what they've made of me." But Wyra had seen enough. He raised his spear and began to charge. And that's when Maya appeared. She had followed the torches, ignored the cries to stay behind. When she saw her son standing in front of a burning beast, her legs nearly gave out. But then she saw the truth. Cain wasn't attacking. He was surrendering. And Arel was trying to protect him. "No!" Maya screamed, throwing herself in front of Wyra just as he lunged. The spear grazed her shoulder and clattered to the ground. "Maya!" She turned to the villagers, her voice hoarse but firm. "He's not a monster. He's the one keeping our children safe at night. He's the one guarding their dreams." Silence. Cain's flames finally died, leaving only charred fur and smoke. Wyra looked around, saw the faces of the villagers, men who once believed, now unsure, men who had come to kill, but now hesitated. Cain stepped back, his breathing heavy, his eyes dimmer now, the glow fading. Arel looked up. "What's happening to you?" Cain smiled weakly. "The curse weakens when truth is spoken." And then, from deep within the forest, something stirred. Not a creature, not a threat, but a light. A bill. Blue like moonlight dancing on water. Path. The villagers watched, mesmerized, as Cain turned toward it. The light kissed his fur, soothed his wounds. Arel tried to follow, but Cain stopped him. "This is where we part, Arel." Tears filled the boy's eyes. "I don't want to forget you." "You won't," Cain said gently, "because you believed. And belief is the seed of all dreams." Cain stepped into the light. And then he was gone. Just like that. But the forest remembered. The villagers remembered. And Arel, he never stopped dreaming. Arel sat on the highest branch of the old tree. his eyes fixed on the place where the blue light had swallowed Cain the night before. The forest seemed quieter now, too quiet, as if it too was mourning the departure of its guardian. Since Cain disappeared, no one in the village dared to speak of him openly. The name became a whisper, something only mentioned by the wind or behind tightly shut doors. Burrell. Arel never stopped talking to him. Every night, he whispered into the wind. He told Cain about the dreams he had, the ones they used to share. But dreams began to change. They weren't safe anymore. It started with a single child, Neela, just 6 years old. She screamed in her sleep, clutching her chest, gasping as if drowning in nightmares. Her mother found claw marks on her pillow, marks that no human hand could make. Then another child, and another. Nightmares began spreading like smoke. Parents stayed awake all night, fearful that their children might not wake up at all. The healer, Pak Didi, said it was sickness of the mind. But the elders, they knew better. Because the forest, once silent, now breathed differently. Groaned, growled, and sometimes it whispered. Arel felt it first. Echo. A sound that wasn't sound. A feeling more than a voice. It reached inside him, cold and sharp, like a shard of broken glass pressing against his heart. One night he saw it. Not Cain, but something else. It moved like Cain, on 4 legs, tall, dark, almost familiar. But its eyes weren't gold. They were hollow. Glowing red like dying coals. It didn't speak in words. It didn't protect. It watched. And when it left, Arel found footprints in the ground that sizzled, as if the earth itself rejected its presence. He knew without a doubt this was not a friend. It was something else. A shadow that rose from the absence of a dream. In the village, fear grew like weeds. Children were forbidden to sleep alone. The forest was declared cursed. Even Wyra, once proud and fearless, looked over his shoulder at night. Arel tried to speak. He told them something was wrong. That Cain was never the danger. But no one listened. Even Maya, his own mother, begged him to stop talking about Cain. She feared people would turn on him. She saw the way the villagers looked at her son now, like he was part of the darkness. But Arel couldn't stop, because Cain's final words echoed inside him. Belief is the root of all dreams. And if people stopped believing, then maybe dreams would die. Maybe the nightmare wasn't a creature. Maybe it was forgetting. So Arel made a choice. He packed a small satchel. He filled it with water, bread, and the old carved feather Cain once left him. Soft, white, almost glowing. Then he entered the forest alone. The deeper he walked, the colder it became. Even the trees looked different, twisted, hunched, as if bent by unseen hands. The wind was not wind. It was whispering, calling, mocking, and always behind him, the sound of something walking. Quiet, patient. He didn't look back. He couldn't. Because if he did, the fear would consume him. Instead, he followed the one thread of warmth he could still feel. Cain's presence. It was faint like an old scent in the air. But it was there. Trace. A memory not yet erased. He reached the old hollow tree, the one where he first met Cain. It was cracked now, blackened. But beneath the roots he saw it. Crack in the ground. Breathing light. He knelt, touched it, and suddenly, the ground opened, swallowed him whole. He fell into a world made of dream. A sky of shifting clouds. Trees of silver. Rivers that hummed lullabies. And in the center, lake, glowing. And beside it, but not as he remembered. He looked older, or perhaps more complete. His fur shimmered like stardust. His eyes no longer burned with sorrow. He looked at peace. Arel ran to him. Cain! Cain did not smile. He stood firm and stepped between Arel and the lake. You shouldn't have come. I had to. Cain's eyes glinted. You brought the echo with you. Arel blinked. The shadow. Cain nodded. When I left your world, the balance shifted. The people stopped believing. And the dreams lost their roots. The creature. It's not a creature. It's the rot that grows when light is forgotten. It wears my shape, but not my soul. Arel looked back. The crack in the sky behind him was closing. I came to bring you back, Arel whispered. To fix it. Cain lowered his head, sadness soft in his breath. I cannot return alone. Then I'll help you. Cain looked at him long and deep. To do that, you must give up something. Arel nodded. I'll do whatever it takes. Cain's voice became the wind. Then prepare yourself, for the world no longer dreams like it once did. The lake shimmered, and from its center, something rose. Something that would test not just Arel's heart, but the strength of every dream ever born from the mind of a child. The surface of the glowing lake rippled, slow and unnatural, like silk pulled by invisible hands. Arel stepped back as something began to rise, something he could not fully see at first. Only the air changed, heavy, as if the dreams themselves held their breath. Cain's body stiffened. His voice, low and steady, broke the silence. The lake of memory responds to truth. What you see now is not a monster. It is your doubt shaped. Arel swallowed hard. The shape took form, a tall, skeletal beast, half wolf, half shadow, its fur dripping black liquid that vanished before hitting the ground. Its eyes were deep sockets of red mist, always shifting, never still. But what made Arel freeze wasn't its fangs or claws. It was the voice that followed. His own voice. A whisper. You will never be enough. It was his fear. His guilt. All the times he felt powerless to save Cain. Every moment he believed no one would ever listen to him. The echo had learned his heart. Cain moved in front of him, defensive. No, Arel. You must not run. I'm not. He stepped forward. Echo Beast snarled. Your dreams are weak, it hissed. You believe in a creature that no longer exists. He's dead. Forgotten. Arel's jaw tightened. You're wrong. You carry his memory, but you let others kill it. The shadow lunged. Arel didn't flinch. Instead, he reached into his satchel and pulled out the carved feather. Cain's feather. The same one that once glowed when Cain stood beside him in the forest. Now it burned white-hot in his hand. He lifted it high. This is what you'll never have, he shouted. Faith! The creature screamed, recoiling, as if the light seared through its bones. But it didn't vanish. Grew. More arms. More teeth. More doubt. Cain rushed forward, his body colliding with the beast, driving it back with a force that rippled through the dream world. They tumbled across the field, claw against claw, light against darkness. Arel wanted to help, but his body was frozen, not by fear, by something else. Test. He felt the ground beneath him begin to pulse, like a heartbeat. The dream world was alive. It was watching, judging. Cain was fighting the shadow without words, but the outcome didn't depend on brute strength. It depended on Arel. He closed his eyes. He thought of every moment, of Cain carrying him across rivers, of how the wolf would tilt his head and listen when no one else would, of the nights he cried alone, and Cain laid beside him in silence. He held those memories like they were fire. And he whispered not to Cain but to the dream. "I believe." The ground glowed. The feather floated from his hand and shot into the sky, splitting the darkness above with a trail of brilliant white. Cain roared, not in pain, but in release. His body lit with silver flame, every hair glowing like lightning had kissed his soul. Echo Beast shrieked. His body crumbled, not in a burst, but in silence, one piece at a time, until it faded like ash in the wind. The air stilled. The lake calmed. Cain stood, his chest rising and falling. And then he turned to Arel. "You did not fight with your fists. You fought with your faith." Arel ran to him, but as he touched Cain's side, he felt the truth. Cain was fading. "What's happening?" he cried. Cain lowered his head. "This place was never meant to last. It's a dream kept alive only by memory. And now that the darkness is gone, I can rest. No, I didn't come this far to lose you again." Cain's golden eyes glistened. "I'm not gone, Arel. I'm inside you now. Inside the stories you'll tell. Inside the children who will believe again. But I still need you." Cain touched his forehead with his muzzle. "And you will always have me." The lake shimmered. The dream began to dissolve. And as Cain vanished, Arel heard his voice one last time. "Bring the dreams back." A burst of wind lifted him, spinning the world into light. And suddenly, he was back, in the forest, alone, but not afraid. Because now he carried not just a memory, he carried a legacy. And far in the distance, the first child laughed in her sleep. Safe again. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that didn't comfort, but unsettled. Arel wandered forward, feet brushing the moss-covered roots beneath him. Though the dream world had faded, a part of it lingered, like whispers just outside the edge of hearing. Cain was gone, but the curse remained. And Arel knew, deep in his chest, that something was wrong with the night. He made his way toward a clearing where the moonlight should have broken through the trees. But no light reached the earth. Above him, the sky was swallowed by a thick veil of cloud, unnatural and still. Then he heard it. Soft, dragging breath. Followed by another. And another. Shapes moved between the trees. Not beasts. Not shadows. Children. Dozens of them. Their faces pale. Eyes closed. Walking slowly, hands outstretched. Like sleepwalkers trapped in an endless nightmare. Arel froze. One of the children passed him, no older than 6, wearing torn pajamas and clutching a broken wooden toy. He whispered her name. But she didn't react. Didn't even flinch. More children emerged from the woods, their feet never fully touching the ground. They moved toward a single point, a black tree, twisted and tall, rising like a claw into the sky. Arel followed them, each step heavier than the last. His head spun. His breath shallowed. The closer he got to the tree, the more the air thickened, like drowning in smoke. At the base of the tree stood a figure cloaked in night. Not shadow. Not man. Something in between. Its body shifted like oil in water, and its face was a mask. A child's mask, painted with a crooked smile. The figure turned slowly and spoke. "Welcome, Keeper of Dreams." Arel's voice trembled. "Who are you?" "I am what remains when belief dies. I am the curse of the night." The children began to kneel around the tree, heads bowed low. Their dreams drained, their spirits fading. Arel took a step forward. "Let them go." The figure tilted its head. They came willingly. Each one gave up, gave in. The world silenced them, mocked them, feared them. They had no Cain to protect them. Arel's fists clenched. They have me now. The mask split, top to bottom. Behind it there was nothing. Only void. Then you too will sleep. And never wake. The ground shattered beneath Arel's feet. He fell. Into blackness. Cold. Infinite. A whisper. Faint. Kane's voice. You must remember who you are. Arel gasped and opened his eyes. He stood at the bottom of the great tree. Alone. The children gone. Or hidden. He wasn't sure. The tree's bark pulsed like a living wound, and above him the masked figure waited. One chance, child, it said. Trade your light for theirs. Give up your dream and I will free them all. Arel's throat tightened. He looked down at his hand. The last fragment of Kane's light still glowed in his palm, a flicker of silver, warm and alive. He closed his fingers around it. And chose. Arel stood before the tree, hand clenched tight around the last flicker of Kane's light. Above him, the masked creature waited in silence, its form rippling in the darkness like smoke trapped in glass. The children remained unseen, hidden somewhere beneath the cursed earth or inside the tree's gnarled veins. Their silence was heavier than any scream. Arel took a shaky breath. This was the moment. He could end their suffering, trade his light, and lose himself forever. He remembered Kane's voice. Dreams are not meant to be given. They're meant to be fought for. But these weren't his dreams. These were theirs. Innocent. Forgotten. Abandoned. He looked up. If I give this light to you, will they wake? The figure nodded slowly. They will remember. But you will be forgotten. Arel hesitated. His name, his story, everything he had survived, would vanish. Kane. And yet his feet moved forward. One step. Another. Until he stood at the base of the cursed tree. The bark throbbed with pulses of shadow, and the masked figure extended its hand. Long black fingers curling toward the boy. Arel opened his fist. The silver light rose. Soft at first, then brighter, as if recognizing the sacrifice about to be made. It floated between them, spinning slowly. The masked figure leaned closer, mouthless, expressionless, but somehow hungry. Arel's heart pounded. His skin tingled. He was about to let go. Scream. Dark. Familiar. Came from behind. He turned. But not as he remembered. The wolf was wounded, limping, covered in ash and thorns. Its golden eyes dimmed, yet blazing with something fierce, hope. Arel! Don't! Arel staggered back, the light still hovering between him and the shadow. But if I don't? You give up everything. You give up yourself. That's not what I wanted for you. Kane stood between Arel and the creature, growling low. You found your own dream. It's yours now. And that's what breaks the curse. The masked creature shrieked. A bone-deep wail that tore through the trees and sent the world trembling. The sky cracked above them. The cursed bark split open. From inside poured screams, memories, broken voices, shattered dreams, and at the center the children trapped within twisted roots. Kane roared and lunged at the roots. Call them, Arel. Remind them who they are. Arel turned to the children. He saw their faces. Some he knew. Some he didn't. But all of them had once believed. He shouted their names. One by one. He screamed until his throat burned. And slowly, one child opened her eyes. Then another. And another. Until dozens of small voices began to call out. Crying, laughing, whispering words they had forgotten they knew. The light between Arel and the figure exploded outward. Silver beams slashed through the tree, through the shadow, through the silence. The masked creature howled and began to dissolve, piece by piece like ash in wind. The roots released the children. They collapsed into the grass, breathing, awake. The tree crumbled, and in its place, only soil remained. Cain fell beside Arel, panting. "You chose right." Arel dropped to his knees, holding the faint silver flicker still glowing in his hands. It had grown smaller, but it was still there, and it was his. Night returned softer now. The cursed tree was gone, and the shadows had retreated into the deepest cracks of the forest. The children, thin, pale but awake, sat beneath what remained of the hollow moonlight. Some wept quietly, some just stared. Arel sat beside Cain, who lay with one paw curled beneath him, chest rising and falling with effort. "You shouldn't have come back," Arel whispered. Cain chuckled hoarsely. "You think I'd let you finish the story without me?" Arel reached into his pocket, revealing the fading silver flicker. His dream, his piece of Cain's curse, now intertwined with his own soul. It pulsed weakly, as if exhausted from the battle. "It's not gone," Cain murmured. "It's changing." Arel nodded. But deep inside he felt it too, something was wrong. The light hadn't just weakened. It was being pulled, somewhere far beyond the woods. From the distance, a low rumble echoed. Not thunder, not wind, but something older, beneath the earth. The children all looked up at once, as if sensing the same invisible pull. "What is that?" Rel asked. Cain's fur bristled. His eyes narrowed toward the distant horizon. "It followed us. The root of the curse. We only broke its grip here." Arel stood slowly, his legs still trembling. "Then where does it end?" Cain struggled to rise. "Where it began." From the trees a boy stepped forward. He was no longer under the spell, but there was something strange in his eyes, an echo of what once held him. "I remember something," he said softly. "A tower. Not here. Beyond the mountains. A door made of bones." Cain's ears twitched. The Dream Eater's origin. Arel felt a chill run down his spine. He thought the nightmare was over. But this was only the skin. The monster's heart still beat. And now it knew Arel's name. "We have to go," Arel said, "before it finds another way in." Cain hesitated. "You don't have to carry this further. You saved them. You broke the tree. That's more than anyone's ever done." Arel looked at the children. At the silence still clinging to their skin. At the light in his hand, now flickering with unfamiliar shapes. Fragments of dreams not his own. "This isn't just my dream anymore," he said. "It belongs to them now too." Cain nodded slowly. The journey wasn't over. And the road ahead was darker than any they had faced. But they had something the shadow never would. Memory. Hope. Fire. And they would carry it to the heart of the nightmare itself. The mountain path was steep and merciless. Days passed in a blur of cold winds and aching silence. The children walked without complaint, their small hands gripping Arel's sleeves or the remnants of Cain's thick fur. Each step further from the forest felt like stepping deeper into an older world, one where dreams were hunted, not nurtured. They reached the plateau on the 8th day. And there it stood. Tower. Monolithic. Pillars. No windows. No roof. Only a spiraling shape that twisted upward into the clouds, vanishing into fog. And at its base, just as the boy had said, was a door made entirely of bones. Pulls. Pines. Fingers frozen mid-scream. It wasn't locked. But it hadn't been opened in a very long time. Cain stepped forward first, his breath ragged. "This is where it began," he said. "Where the first dream was devoured." Arel touched the door. It was warm, not from fire, but from memory, from pain. He turned to the children. Stay here. No matter what you hear, don't come in. Some of them nodded. Some cried. Cain stood beside him. I go with you. Together they pushed open the bone door. Didn't creak. Inside there was no floor. No ceiling. Just a vast space suspended in black mist. Floating platforms of stone, each carrying fragments of memories. Shoes, dolls, drawings, broken clocks, mementos of dreams lost and stolen. A voice filled the space. Smooth. Cruel. You came all this way to bury yourself. Had no body. No face. Only a presence that filled every corner. Cain growled. You remember me. The presence laughed. The wolf who refused to sleep. The curse that wouldn't rot. I remember your howl. And I remember your hunger, Cain hissed. Arel stepped forward. His light now burning steadily. I'm not here to bury myself, he said. I'm here to end you. The mist shuddered. A form began to rise. Enormous, coiling like a serpent made of smoke and teeth and endless eyes. It towered above them, dwarfing even the tallest dreams. I am the end of hope, it roared. Arel didn't flinch. He raised the light. And for the first time it didn't tremble. He saw every dream it had swallowed. And he saw the tiny fires still alive inside them. You're not the end, Arel said. You're the reason we keep dreaming. With that, he hurled the light into the heart of the beast. The impact was silent. And then, scream. Not of pain, but of remembering. The creature writhed, caught in a flood of memories. Of children singing, of wolves dreaming, of forests full of laughter and stars. It tried to devour the light. But the light grew. Brighter. Brighter. Until there was no shadow left to hide in. Cain howled, the sound shaking the stone platforms. The tower began to crack. The bones on the door outside began to crumble. The children saw light pouring from the seams. And then, silence. The tower was gone. Only a field of grass remained. And in the middle of it, Rel is closed, breathing, barely. Cain limped toward him and lay beside his body. The children gathered slowly. No one spoke. They didn't need to. The darkness was gone. The dreams were theirs again. And though Arel might never wake, his dream had never shone brighter. Dear listeners, every story, though fictional, holds a mirror to our real lives, a reflection from which we can learn something deep, something human. The Boy and the Wolf Who Never Slept is not just a bedtime tale or a fantasy adventure. It is a symbol of the quiet battle fought by those who dare to dream, even when the world is filled with shadows trying to silence them. Arel, the boy who dreamed, teaches us that true courage does not come from strength of the body, but from the light we protect within our hearts. He stood before his darkest fear, a fear shaped like curses, nightmares, and deep loneliness. Yet he walked forward. He held on to a fragile flame, and let it grow bright enough to burn away the darkness. Cain, the cursed wolf who could never sleep, carries the weight of past sins. He is not perfect, not a hero, but he is loyal. And in the end, it is loyalty that bridged the path toward change. He chose to fight, not for himself but for the children, for hope, for something greater than himself. And those children, voiceless at first, yet they represent a generation waiting to be protected. Maybe like us, or like our younger siblings, our children, or the child we once were. All they need is one person who believes in them. This story is entirely fictional. All characters and events are purely imaginary and bear no connection to real-life events or people. However, it was crafted as if it were real, to inspire you to move your heart and to bring meaningful lessons into your everyday life. Because even in the real world we are sometimes just like Aurel, wounded, alone and full of questions. But as long as we don't let the light inside us fade, as long as we keep dreaming even when the world tries to smother our hopes, we are never truly defeated. Thank you so much for listening to this story until the very end. If this tale moved you, inspired you, or simply kept you intrigued, please let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear which part touched your heart the most. And of course, help this channel grow by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your support means the world to us and gives us the motivation to keep creating powerful, emotional stories like this one. Until the next story, dear listeners, keep your light alive and never stop dreaming.